Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carolyn DeClute, and I am a constable with the Toronto Police Service. It is my pleasure to welcome you here today. Just to give you an idea how this event will work and unfold, we will have brief remarks from our speakers today, followed by a question and answer session. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers. Marco Mendicino, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities and Member of Parliament of Eglinton Lawrence. Chief of Police Mark Saunders, Toronto Police Service. Mayor John Tory, City of Toronto. Please join me in welcoming Marco Mendicino, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities and Member of Parliament of Eglinton Lawrence.
Thank you, Constable, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit. I'm very pleased to be here on behalf of my colleague, Ralph Goodale, Canada's Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness. Je suis très heureux d'être ici au nom de mon collègue Ralph Goodale, le ministre de la Sécurité publique et de la Protection civile du Canada. And I also want to acknowledge the presence of two very important friends and colleagues, Mayor Tory, of course, and the Chief of Police. These are two vitally important partners for the Government of Canada when it comes to public safety, whether we're talking about fighting against organized crime, reducing gun violence in the city, and the threat of terrorism. As events have shown and history teaches us, Canada is not immune to the threat of terrorism, nor are we immune to the danger posed by those who are radicalized to violence. So it is increasingly important to focus on prevention and intervention efforts directed at individuals at risk of adopting dangerous ideologies. In Canada, in fact, we are striving to be a global leader in this area. We want to become among the best in the world at understanding and dealing effectively with all types of radicalization before they lead to violence. That will be absolutely essential in order to retain Canada's character as an open, inclusive, and compassionate society, and one that is also safe and secure. We also know that Canada's strength comes from our diversity, and we will not be intimidated by those who seek to divide us or promote fear. That's what Canadians do. We look out for one another, bound by a shared commitment to inclusiveness and diversity, and a shared rejection of hate, fear, and division. Our safety and prosperity depend on all of us working together. That means community leaders and advocates, academics and service providers, law enforcement and governments, and many others partnering together. That is why prevention programming was central to the government's election promises and why it's front and center in our mandate now. It's an important component of Canada's approach to countering violent extremism and terrorism. In some cases, individuals are on a path of radicalization to violence that, if continued, might lead to terrorist activity here at home or in other countries. And if we can help prevent that from happening by intervening early on to redirect those individuals away from that path before tragedy strikes, then we should. We know that radicalization to violence is a complex problem, and we believe that it can be best addressed when experts with diverse backgrounds work together. That is why our overarching goal is to help build more resilient communities and encourage collaboration across sectors, organizations, academia, and governments. To that end, last year, we announced the creation of the Canada Centre for Community Engagement and Prevention of Violence. À cette fin, l'an dernier, nous avons annoncé la création du Centre canadien d'engagement communautaire et de prévention de la violence. The Centre is Canada's national focal point on this issue. It provides national leadership to support and empower local efforts that reflect the realities of their community. And a key part of that work is through the Community Resilience Fund. This fund was created to enhance those partnerships and promote research and innovative programming for countering radicalization to violence in Canada. It was also created to learn from good practices at the local level and to share these lessons among frontline practitioners across Canada. Today, therefore, I'm pleased to announce federal funding of more than $1 million over 3 years from the Community Resilience Fund to help the Toronto Police Service expand a program that works to reduce crime and tackle high-risk behavior in our city. The program is called Focus Toronto. It's led by the Toronto Police Service, the City, and the United Way, working in partnership with a number of local agencies around a common table. A key focus of its efforts is prevention and early intervention, and that's where today's announcement comes in. The funding will mean more resources and better training for frontline workers and law enforcement to counter radicalization to violent extremism. The Focus team will have a greater ability to examine cases of individuals at high risk of radicalization to violence and, based on each unique set of factors, coordinate intervention strategies to help them turn away from that dangerous path. On behalf of the Government of Canada, and with gratitude to our partners, I'd like to congratulate all those involved in this important initiative. Merci de faire de Canada le pays sécuritaire, inclusif et innovateur que nous souhaitons tous. And I wish you all the very best with this new support in delivering on this project. Merci beaucoup. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Chief.
Thank you, Parliamentary Secretary Mendicino, for this tremendous opportunity for us and for the partnerships that we have in order to be successful when it comes to community safety in today's environment. Just by way of background, the Toronto Police Service has focused on countering violent extremism as far back as 2014. And we have evolved as an agency when it comes to these efforts and expanded our initiatives, working in collaboration with all areas of service as well as law enforcement and community partners. For example, we've already incorporated countering violent extremism in our Focus Toronto programs to ensure that those who may be on a pathway to violence are identified and put in contact with the appropriate resources or agencies. The Toronto Police Service believes that enforcement is not always the answer. When it comes to radicalization of any kind, the key to success is involving our communities who we're serving and all levels of government. And today is an example of that when we talk about enhancing our partnerships to enhance community safety, understanding that all levels of government, the city has worked strong with us, as well as the United Way. We're the first in Canada to start with this countering violent extremism program, and we've learned from that, and we are continuing to expand. And today's funding will allow us to expand on the capacity to conduct this important work with the focus tables and to train our members and our community partners on threats and risks as well. At the end, everybody involved in a focus program will be better prepared to identify and counter those displaying those radicalized behaviors. And I just want to once again personally thank the strong working relationship we do have with all levels of government, especially today working with the federal government and Minister Goodale for understanding the importance of funding these types of programs so that we have the opportunity of thinking preventatively, of strengthening community partnerships in order to get this right. And Mayor Tory, if you want to take the podium and say a few words.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm just here really to say two things, principally. One is to say how much we appreciate this partnership between the federal government, partnering now together with Focus Toronto, which was itself and is itself a partnership between the Toronto Police Service, the City of Toronto, and the United Way. I've had the experience of going to the Focus Toronto table and watching them work. And I can tell you it is it's something to behold, because what you have there is some of the smartest, most dedicated, most sensitive, most informed people from all walks of professional life, focusing themselves on individual cases, person by person, in a sensitive, professional way. And what they're doing there is they're dealing with those cases of people who are either have been in trouble or are facing issues or are likely to fall onto the wrong side of the line. and trying to deal with those in a collaborative way, and to watch each individual case be dealt with, and to watch the teams of people who form up. And it's interesting because in every case, because everyone is different, it's a different team of people from within that room and all the different agencies who form themselves up to do that work. And so I just want to say that this is an important day to move that program forward. And it's moving it forward in an area where, unfortunately, we've seen the consequences of radicalization far too often. And I saw them doing some work in other areas of life: substance abuse, mental health issues, housing issues, criminal law issues. And we have to be just as relentless, just as sensitive, just as informed, just as well-resourced when it comes to dealing with the issue of possible violence in our midst, terrorist violence in our midst, and some of the root causes of that. And the Focus Toronto table is just the place to do that. And this is, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the partnership between the two governments. In this case, it is the two governments plus the police service plus the United Way. I will just say to you that Ministers Bill Blair, Minister Ralph Goodale, and the Prime Minister himself, I've had conversations with all three of them on the subject of community safety, and including issues of radicalization and security-related issues. And I can just tell you there has been no better partner for the City of Toronto in trying to address these issues and trying to get at the root causes and do things like Focus Toronto does than the government of Prime Minister Trudeau. And Marco Mendicino has been, as one of the leaders in the Toronto caucus of members of Parliament, a stalwart partner of ours here in taking that message forward as to the need for help, because we do face challenges in a number of these areas, and we do face the need, as always, to make sure we do as much as we can to prevent this kind of activity from taking place. And so these funds are going to be most welcome to address that at the Focus Toronto table. And I will say, I promised Mr. Mendicino I would, this is one of a number of applications that we, and by we I mean the Toronto Police Service and the city, have into the federal government for access to their prevention and other kinds of funds that are going to help with this sort of work in combating violence in the city of all kinds and preventing it. And I will just say that I hope this is the first of many of these announcements to come, because the federal government has been, and I know will continue to be, a good partner in all of this. But my most important message to people out there who may not have heard of this program, because it's one that happens in a way that is, by definition, quite confidential, because they're dealing with the very open details of some of the people that they're trying to help, that I can tell you this is a very worthwhile investment. This is a very important investment by the Government of Canada, and it is something that I think will be good for the City of Toronto as we work to make sure this remains what it is, which is one of the safest cities in the world. And our job is to make sure we keep it that way, and this announcement today from the Government of Canada will be very helpful in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you to our three speakers and to those who attended today. We will now open the floor to questions. Please begin your questions by identifying yourself and naming the media outlet you represent.
It's all good news.
That's all we have for today. Thank you for your participation. That concludes today's event.
Come back.